Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever in the world that you may be today on this August the 16th, 2021. Unbelievably, and I do say this with, and I express this in a manner in which I say unbelievably, okay, Afghanistan. An organization that we sent soldiers to fight in a war. We lost over 4,000 of our American soldiers, whether that be Navy, Marines, Army, Air Force, even members of the Coast Guard who did tours of duty in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has fallen to the Taliban. The Taliban has taken control of the country of Afghanistan. They started by seizing presidential palaces in Kabul. 7 people have been killed at Kabul International Airport. Afghani and foreign citizens are trying in vain to leave the country. I have some footage that I'm going to be showing you today, and I've got to warn you that viewer discretion is advised. Some of this footage is disturbing, but we show things as they are. That's the whole concept behind League U. All governments are meeting to try to decide what to do. We have soldiers still there in Afghanistan, um, but unbelievably, the Taliban has managed to take Afghanistan. This is a big deal. This is the news all over the world right now, all over the world. I'm going to show you some footage of what's really going on in Afghanistan. We're going to look at some additional footage. And like I said, viewer discretion is advised. So let me put up my banner here. Hey guys, let me put my banner up here. Again, viewer discretion is advised. All right. Let me share out a different tab here. I'm getting all sorts of information from a variety of sources. And so, I will acknowledge each source as I can. Okay. This was posted by Love Shreveport Bogier. There are video of people desperately holding on to planes as they leave the airports in an effort to get the hell out of Afghanistan. I think this is newsworthy, and that's why I'm going to show you this footage. Everyone wants to get out. People want out. This is like ISIS conquering Afghanistan and the terror that ISIS brought with them. Women had to be covered. We can see people dropping from the planes, okay? We see people literally falling from the planes in their effort to hold on to get out of Afghanistan. That is shocking. Okay, this is shocking. Now, this was posted by Al Jazeera. Now, you all know how I feel. You know how I feel about Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera became known because they posted our dead soldiers on their news. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Sorry, I've not been able to acknowledge any of you, but I just want to make sure that I say this: the viewer discretion is advised because some of this footage is going to be very shocking. And so I have made sure to notate that I am striking this as age restricted. You will need to be over the age of 18 and you will need to hit confirm. You won't be able to embed this video because I follow the guidelines of YouTube. Again, we're going to look at some footage here and we're going to, I've got more information to share with you. People are holding on to the plane in an effort, and they're falling off. We can see them falling off to their deaths. Anything just to get out. We can see them continue to fall. That's about 5 people I've seen fall so far. They just want to get out of Afghanistan. Now that the Taliban has taken control, again, this is like ISIS. We're talking about extreme violence. The Taliban is an extremely dangerous terrorist organization. And let's not forget who was the leader of the Taliban, Bin Laden. These are more images. Shots were heard amid scenes of chaos and panic at the international airport in Kabul as hundreds of Afghans rush to secure a flight to flee the country after the Taliban took the capital. People are doing everything possible. The Taliban is shooting civilians. We are getting these feeds in as they come. The Taliban is obviously executing people. People are just trying to find any way out. Now, I can tell you that already, since the Taliban has taken Kabul, the capital, they are already painting over the images of women in murals. I know, but again, let me talk to you a little bit here. I'm going to play some footage while I'm talking, and I'm going to explain to you what the Taliban is. We're gonna mute this, and I wanna explain to you, actually, hold on just 1 second. 1 second. Hold on just a second, you guys, because I wanna tell you exactly. Hold on just a second. Looks like Afghanistan has now shut down their airport. Okay, 1 second here. Alright. Now, I'm going to make this larger, give you some information here. Okay, so that is a little bit, hold on. Bear with me, you guys. So I've got some additional footage that I need to show you. Okay, here we go. Okay. Now, while you're looking at this, I want to give you a little bit of information here. Now, what's going on here at the airport? I've got more information here. The Taliban has set up cordons. They have now blocked off the airport, as Afghans are trying to flee. They are shooting civilians. They are killing civilians of Afghans that are trying to flee the country. The Taliban has now declared war in Afghanistan uh, after its fighters swept into the capital, and President Ashraf Ghani has fled the country. So the current or elected president of Afghanistan has fled the country. Taliban fighters, and this is why I hate Al Jazeera with a passion. Let me tell you guys how they made a sentence here. This is their sentence. Victorious Taliban fighters patrolled the streets of Kabul on Monday as thousands of Afghans mobbed the city's airport trying to flee the group's feared hardline brand of rule. That, to me, um, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry I haven't said anything to anyone on any of the chats, whether you're here under Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. Welcome to the stream. Shout out to the Centel. Hey, baby. Just mod. I appreciate you being able to mod if you can. Natalie, thank you for being able to mod if you can. Um, this is very concerning. Blocked. Al Jazeera's probably host their own servers, but in my humble opinion, after reading this and seeing the way that Al Jazeera has, reported in the past, they are definitely hardline and they are for the Taliban. The audacity of them to say victorious Taliban fighters patrolled the streets of Kabul on Monday. I just can't believe this. Scores of Afghans ran alongside a U.S. military plane as it taxied on the runway. Several clung to the side as the jet took off. These people also held on into the air, and they then fell off of the plane to their deaths. Senior U.S. military officials say that the chaos have left 7 dead, but you and I both know there is way more than 7 people dead right now in Afghanistan. So I just wanted to share with you how disgusting Al Jazeera is. So let's talk about this, uh, from an American or an American perspective here. As news broke that the Taliban had captured Kabul, some images of uncovered women adorning the walls of capital have now been painted over. That was the first thing that the Taliban did after taking Kabul, was to cover by painting over the women. So that lets you know we're talking hardline, extreme. What we would call in the United States, like we have Republican and Democratic, Republican, and then we have extreme Republican, where they're very extreme in their views, and that's essentially what you're looking at here, Sharia law, where women have to be covered. And that's the sort of extremism that we're looking at here. The Taliban says it has changed, promising that women living under their rule will have more rights this time around, but it appeared that the people painting over the signs were not taking any chances. When the Taliban last ruled in Afghanistan, were barred from public life and only allowed outside when escorted by men and dressed in burqas. Now, you can see in the video images that you're looking at, those are people falling off of the planes. Okay? They're falling off the planes.
Well, absolutely caught everybody completely unawares, and that's the reason why Rajdeep, there is a special plane that has taken off for Kabul.
I want y'all to hear this.
Now, our big story. 5 people have lost their lives as that chaos descended upon the Kabul International Airport. Unprecedented scenes that saw a huge mob run amok at the US controlled airport, all of them desperately trying to flee the war-torn country. People were seen hanging from the monstrous C-17 planes to try and get as far as possible from the Taliban and their home country of Afghanistan. How did it all happen? Here's our top story.
I agree with you, Hexton, 1,000%.
Mayhem, chaos, and complete desperation. This is the grim situation at the Kabul International Airport. The last piece of land that has not been overrun by Taliban fighters.
Right now, it is surrounded with the Taliban fighters. As you may hear the gunshot in the background. Because of the thousands of people Taliban fighters want to disperse people, want to say them leave the gate because there is no way to get out of here.
It all began with a huge mob scaling the walls of US-controlled Kabul airport. At a time when United States was busy evacuating its remaining citizens out of the country. And moments later, they were on the tarmac, literally running on all flanks of the monstrous C-17 aircraft. Seeing the situation going out of hand, US deployed its AH-64E Apache attack helicopters, and they were seen flying meters away from the tarmac to clear the tarmac for the C-17 to take off. Seeing their one-way ticket out of Kabul going away, many were seen clinching on the landing gears of C-17, hoping to somehow get as far away from Taliban. But soon, a few were seen falling from the sky. What's even more astonishing is the fact that the huge crowd that descended upon the Kabul airport had no single woman or children. That begs the question, have they been left to their fate? With Naveed Sultani in Kabul, Bureau Report, India Today.
Meanwhile, first, let's get a perspective here from the national capital because there are, remember, a number of Indian civilians and citizens who are still there in Kabul as we speak. I'm joined by Geeta Mohan, Foreign Affairs Editor. Geeta, what are the plans for evacuation as of now? We are told there is an IAF plane which is already in Kabul or on its way to Kabul. Can you give us more details of what is the evacuation plan that the Indian government has in mind? Because it seems that the sheer pace with which the Taliban captured Kabul has caught everyone by surprise.
Well, absolutely caught everybody completely unawares, and that's the reason why Rajdeep, there is a special plane that has taken off for Kabul, and as
And that's exactly what happened, guys. Basically, what happened is the Taliban literally took Afghanistan by surprise. It's unbelievable. This was planned. There's no question that this was a planned attack. So let me just kind of continue to kind of explain some things why you guys watch those images. Many fear the return of those conditions, the ones I was referring to you, as far as women being barred from public life, only being allowed outside when escorted by men dressed in burqas. A burqa is a complete covering. There's different types of coverings. A burqa is a complete covering. The disappearing pictures of women in day just after they took Kabul, right? They're already trying to paint away the images of women already day one, like their main objection, right? It's just one sign of the new reality Kabul woke up to on Monday. The city was still in shock at the blistering speed with which the Taliban had managed to take over. That means there are many men that have been walking around in Afghanistan this whole time, and they just secretly planned and enacted this attack. There is a sect of men of the Muslim religion that has always wanted an Islamic state. Always. ISIS has been, pretty much dismantled at this point, and now they move on. It's gonna, like Hector, who was it in the chat? Um, Hexton, I agree with him. This is going to become another Syria. We are going to see another Syria type situation. We're talking about a group a group of men who literally just dismantled an entire government. We sat there and lost how many soldiers' lives in Afghanistan, in the war in Afghanistan? And you mean to tell me, so we start pulling out and it left a power vacuum, as Hexton said. He's exactly right, he or she. And it literally allowed them to come in and just take complete control. It's almost just envision someone coming in and uh, taking everything we know, like our whole entire United States government, dismantling it in day one day in a blistering attack, and everything just changes overnight, and it becomes an emergency fear situation. As you can see, these people are so fearful and scared, they're literally jumping on planes trying to hold on to them in the hopes that they can get the hell out, because they're that scared, because they know what's coming. This is like ISIS all over again. The city's fall to the Taliban was within hours, with barely a shot fired. How many men walked around for the last few years planning this? The city's fall to the Taliban was within hours, with barely a shot fired. Afghan security forces patrolling the presidential palace were replaced by Taliban fighters, and checkpoints were established across the city within hours. It was planned. Appearing relaxed and jubilant at their victory, Taliban fighters outside the presidential palace told CNN their main job now was to provide security and make sure there was no looting or criminality during the handover. Power. When asked about smoking bans, mandatory beards, and other rules that the group has imposed on civilians in the past, the fighters told CNN nothing would be implemented drastically or immediately. At the same time, they shooed away CNN's chief international correspondent, Clarissa Ward, telling her, and by the way, that is a black woman, telling her to stand to the side because she's a woman. Afghans are Muslim people and want to live under Muslim law, the Taliban fighters told CNN. On the other side of the city, at Hamid Karzai International Airport, scenes of desperation are absolutely unfolding. Witnesses at the scene told CNN thousands of people were there hoping to board flights out of the country. Hundreds of people were seen storming the tarmac, clinging onto air bridges, desperately trying to board these planes. One person hoping to get on a flight out of Afghanistan said they feared persecution at the hands of the Taliban when the Americans leave the country. At one point, the witness said they managed to get inside the airport where they saw U.S. soldiers telling Afghans to stay back. Quote, the U.S. needs to take us with them. Once they're gone, we will be left behind forever, said this witness. The witness said they went back outside the airport to try to pick up their family and were prevented from re entering by the Taliban.
Checkpoint, 7 or 8 Taliban people, and we were told that we were not allowed to move to the airport without permission from them, from the government, which we were able
That's very
to
scary,
get
strategic.
later on.
That's very
However,
scary.
we
Oh
weren't
my
able to get
God.
to the airport
Oh,
because it
you
was
guys, the
shut down
comment
and
on
in
the
chaos.
screen.
My understanding was, from what I saw this morning, was that the Taliban was in control of the streets,
And the
that
Taliban will have
they were
nukes.
not threatening. They didn't threaten us, and they were trying to move things
Who are
along
you
as smoothly
talking
as
to
possible.
exactly?
I can't comment
Mr.
on kind of
Studies.
during
Are
the
you
day when it
talking to
gets
me?
busier about what was going on, but I heard that there were people on the streets, shops were open, more people were coming out, people were
Wow,
eating
hold
ice
on.
creams.
Don't take this guy
So,
out yet.
yeah,
Don't
there
take
are no
this guy
police or
out yet. Hold
military
on.
here.
Hold on a second.
No,
I
no
think this
police.
is important to document. Um so although I'm going to get you here in a second, I'm going to make sure that I share this. There seems to be a Taliban member or something here in the chat, and I'd like to show you their comments because I want you to see their line of thinking. So look here. Comment 1. He says Taliban ideology will spread to Pakistan. It won't be like Syria. Then he says, I studied in the National Defense University, Islamabad, for 4 years. Then he says, those people who help the United States and its allies are afraid of the Taliban. Then he says, Mullah Baradar was in Pakistan Agency's prison for 8 years. He won't forget this. Then he says, Taliban are far better than corrupt regime installed by the United States. He goes on to say, Taliban model will work out well. It will spread to Pakistan, and then Taliban will have nukes. So, and then he says, it will be awesome. Wow. Um, then you say you have a big mouth and little understanding of ground reality. And then you confirm that you're talking to me. Well, if you're not a Taliban member, then what the hell are you? I mean, you're basically advocating for what's going on right now, and you're disgusting. What's so awesome about the Taliban having a nuclear weapon, Mr. Strategic Studies? Why don't you tell us that? Matter of fact, I would absolutely love to invite you up on the panel to tell me and explain to me why, what you're saying. There's the link if you'd like to come on up. I don't understand what's good about the Taliban having nuclear weapons, Mr. Strategic Studies, but you sure do seem pretty knowledgeable on what the Taliban's goal is about, So you mean you say I have a big mouth and little understanding? Well, won't you come school me? Come school me. Because what I see happening today, you don't need a mic. Your cell phone can be a mic. Because your cell phone can be a mic. Hey, what's up, Candy Cane? It seems like we've got a Taliban lover in the chat. Why don't you come on up and explain everything that you just put in my chat? Now, I'm a pretty cool person, and I let people really express themselves on my platform. But you're up here trying to tell me that what's happening right now in Afghanistan is some kind of positive. What's good? Again, can you tell me why you think it's good that the Taliban has nuclear weapons? I would sure love to know the answer to that. And you're right. America has no room to judge. I have been of the opinion that America needs to mind their own business and stop putting their noses in other countries' business. But I would like to know why this man in my chat thinks that the Taliban, returning to and taking over Afghanistan and getting control on nuclear weapons is a good thing. And there's a link again to the chat or come on up. All you got to do is hit the link with your cell phone. You don't need a microphone. You could, at the very least, explain why you think that the Taliban model works out well and that it's going to spread to Pakistan. Like you're literally telling us that of the plan that the Taliban has, that they're going to spread their ideology into Pakistan and that the Taliban will have nukes and that it will be awesome. I'd like to know what's awesome about that. I don't think that you can ever expect any regime to not have corruption in it. But the fact of the matter is, we are leaving Afghanistan. The United States has already said this. So, you can't blame us for what goes on after we leave Afghanistan. But I really would like to know, why you feel that way. And I'm legit asking. Government is there to provide order and peace with or without democracy, but that's not really answering my question, sir. You said that Taliban having nukes is an awesome thing, and I really, really would like to know why you feel that way. Ideologies spread like capitalism, communism. Okay, but that's still, you're not like really answering my question. I mean, if the model, like LL says here, if the model will work out well, why are the people terrified and trying to flee the country? Legit. I agree, Candy Cane, on that very much so. I'm not in agreement with strategic at all, Verse. I sure would like to know why why won't they hit the link? I don't understand. Just hit the link. Lee Q, the Taliban was trained and supported by Pakistan, but trained by the USA after the Soviet invasion. Yes, you are correct. the Soviets also trained Afghanistan as well. So I guess you're not going to hit the link, sir? Yeah, I think you're right. Strategic ability to do what? Like, this is a, conversation I would really love to have with you. You can be anonymous. Uh, I don't need to put you on the screen, sir. Why don't you call me then? Since you have no mic, how about I drop a phone number where you can call me so you can explain what you mean by that? Like, let's not even play games here. There's no question that we can connect some kind of way. What do you mean it's clash of civilization, fourth generation warfare? Okay. The Taliban are a certain ethnic group, Pashtun, I think, and everything is divided on tribal lines in that region of the world. Yes, that is true. Irani tried to spread their version of Shia Islam in GCC. But you got to understand that you saying this through chat doesn't get the point across that you're trying to make. The balance of terror. Yeah, exactly. You have a mic on the phone. So would you like to elaborate or what? Or I'm just going to move on, I'm just going to move on. Well, I mean, you can say whatever, but the point's not really going to be taken. You know what I'm saying? Because you won't even, like I said, I can drop. That's what I'm saying. Are you Afghani? Strategic? Are you Afghani? Um, Again, I can provide anonymity uh, for you to come up and discuss this and discuss these ideas and these statements that you're making. I don't need to expose you uh, or anything like that. So, like I said, if you get interested and you ever want to have a conversation about this, you can surely reach me at LeakU on IG. You can also reach me at leaksonline@gmail.com. And, always look in the description of my videos. I typically always put my contact info in there. I would like to have a full on conversation with you regarding this. Hey, Centel, babe. And it could be completely anonymous. I don't need to bring you up and expose you to anything. By the way, guys, follow my Phantom Nation account when you get a chance. That's the emblem. Just wanted to show you guys that. Let's get back to what I was doing. It's just that, Strategic caught my eye with his comments, and I find it very interesting, even the point of view. And my thing is, I feel like points of view are important, and everybody has a right to express a point of view. So, the offer stands. If you're ever interested, it is what it is. So I'll leave it at that. Anyway, let's continue forward here.
Last night,
Yes.
what did you go through last night?
Now, there's also been an
Well,
earthquake in
we
Haiti.
had
That's
associates
the other
at the
thing that,
airport.
is kind of being eclipsed with what's happening in Afghanistan. 1,300 people have been killed in a massive earthquake in Haiti. That's the other top breaking news. But I just wanted to make sure that was known.
Very lucky that they weren't shot. If you can imagine
Now,
Tough
let's go
times.
back because we
some
were talking with
on
strategic.
news, so we
Let's
never
go
really
ahead
have
and
a
go back
uh,
so we can
resources.
see.
What happens? You're desperate to get out of the country, and there seems to be this complete chaotic situation building up. So while you're being hopeful, Nigel, is there also a sense that do you share the sense of betrayal that some people within Afghanistan and outside feel at the moment?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, you
one other thing that I do want to share with Strategic and anyone else for that matter. Happen to be a techie, so I'm not just kidding when I say anonymous. I can also provide methods to where our communication or connection to each other would be anonymous. I'm not going to express what those methods are publicly, but there are methods in which we can speak anonymously, that even I wouldn't know or be able to get a lock in on your location. So again, if that is something that you're interested in, please reach out. My contact information strolling across the bottom of the video and is generally in the description of each of my videos. But I really would like to speak to someone to get a better understanding of, your viewpoint on this particular topic. But let's continue.
This has been disgraceful. Has been absolutely disgraceful and based in.
I want to show you guys something else right now. We will go back to this particular video, but there's something that I want to show you here, um, that because some people are like, oh my gosh, Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. But what is the Taliban? Who are they? And how did they manage to take over Afghanistan so quickly? So I'd like to show you this. This will help you
Why do we
in
sign every Stearns and Foster
understanding
mattress?
the further information that we sit here and we watch, especially for those of you that may not be privy, or aware for that matter. So of course, there's always commercials, but give me just a second here. And here we go.
As soon as we leave our compound, it's clear who is now in charge. Taliban fighters have flooded the capital. Smiling and victorious, they took this city of 6 million people in a matter of hours, barely firing a shot.
This is a sight I honestly thought I would never see. Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy compound.
Some carry American weapons. They tell us they're here to maintain law and order. Everything is under control. Everything will be fine, the commander says. Nobody should worry.
What's your message to America right now?
America already spent enough time in Afghanistan. They need to leave, he tells us. They already lost lots of lives and lots of money. People come up to them to pose for photographs.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
At the presidential palace, the Taliban are now guarding the gate. They say they're here to fill the vacuum left when the government fled. But the welcoming spirit only extends so far, and my presence soon creates tension.
It's because of you.
They've just told me to stand to the side because I'm a woman.
Outside, ordinary Afghans clamor to talk to us, struggling to process the dizzying speed of Kabul's fall.
Actually, I feel nothing right now. We want peace. We are tired of this ongoing war.
What does the future look like to you now?
I cannot predict even in seconds right now, and I can't predict even minutes right now. So that's why I don't know what will happen tomorrow and what will happen after.
Wow. Wow.
Clarissa, we are looking at pictures right now, scenes from the airport in Kabul. Obviously, the frenzy of people trying to get on planes there. But can people even get to the airport at this point?
So we had several teams of colleagues who tried to get to the airport yesterday, and it was mayhem. Essentially, the entire road was completely blocked with cars. You had people driving down the wrong side of the road. You had one American friend told me there were just scenes of chaos, this crush of people trying to get through, and then there was shooting. It's not clear whether the shooting was targeting somebody or whether it was simply someone trying to scatter the crowd because the chaos was too much. But as you well know, whenever you have a scene like that, where you have a crash of humanity, where you have absolute chaos, where you have bullets flying, that's when people get hurt. And I think those images that you're seeing, and they're seared into all of our minds, speak to this desperation. How desperate, how petrified does an individual have to be to risk everything and just try to physically crush yourself on to the outside of an airplane? Those images of people holding on to a U.S. Air Force carrier, I think that's something many Americans will, and people around the world will not be able to get out of their minds for quite some time.
Our signature viscose from bamboo is free of harmful chemicals and woven from the softest, most resilient.
Pretty amazing turn of events. Yes, they have canceled all flights in and out. There is no safe place. The Afghan military, from my understanding, a lot of the Afghan military has turned into Taliban fighters. Now, I want to share this back out, what we were watching previously. A very, very uh, good. Um, this is on India Today. One of their concerns is that there are still Indian citizens inside India at this time.
Incredibly, devastatingly. They're not even able to evacuate
Now,
their own people.
I did want
You know,
to.
they're letting down their own people who are not able to, leave.
I did want to, while we're looking at this, I want to talk about this just really quick. Now, just last week, U.S. intelligence analysts had predicted it would likely take several more weeks before Afghanistan's civilian government in Kabul fell to Taliban fighters. In reality, it only took a few short days. On Sunday, this is how this happened. This is how the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. After they were driven from Kabul by U.S. troops. Although Afghan security forces were well funded and well equipped, they put up little resistance as Taliban militants seized much of the country following the withdrawal of U.S. troops beginning in early July. Again, going back to what Hexton said, there was a power vacuum that was absolutely left behind by our withdrawal of troops in July. Now, on Sunday, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled the country, abandoning the presidential palace to Taliban fighters. Already, U.S. officials have admitted that they miscalculated the speed at which the Taliban were able to advance across the country, with Secretary of State the country, and that has happened more quickly than we anticipated, end quote. The Taliban's swift success has prompted questions over how the insurgent group was able to gain control so soon after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and after almost 20 years of conflict in the U.S.'s longest running war, what the Taliban want. Formed in 1994, the Taliban were made up of former Afghan resistance fighters known collectively as Mujahideen, who fought the invading Soviet forces in the 1980s. They aimed to impose their interpretation of Islamic law on the country and remove any foreign influence. So, who are the Taliban? After the Taliban captured Kabul in 96, the Sunni Islamist organization put in place strict rules. Women had to wear head to toe coverings, were not allowed to study or work, and were forbidden from traveling alone. TV, music, and non Islamic holidays were banned. That changed after September 11, 2001, when 19 men hijacked four commercial planes in the United States, crashing two into the World Trade Center towers, one into the Pentagon, and another, destined for Washington, into a field in Pennsylvania. More than 2,700 people were killed in the attacks. The attack was orchestrated by Al Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, who operated from inside of Taliban controlled Afghanistan. Less than a month after the attack, U.S. and allied forces invaded Afghanistan, aiming to stop the Taliban from providing a safe haven to Al Qaeda and to stop Al Qaeda from using Afghanistan as a base of operations for terrorist activities. Now, who are the leaders? The Taliban are led by Molawi Habatullah Akhundzada, and I hope I said that right. He is a senior religious cleric from the Taliban's founding generation. He was named as Taliban's leader in 2016 after the group's previous leader, Mullah Akhtar Mohammad Mansour, was killed in a U.S. airstrike in Pakistan. At the time, Thomas Ruddick of the Afghanistan Analyst Network said the new Taliban leader might be able to integrate the younger and more militant generation. Another key player is Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, the Taliban co founder, who was released in 2013 after being captured in 2010 in Karachi, Pakistan's largest city. Baradar heads the group's political committee and recently met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. What did the Taliban agree to with Trump? In 2017, the Taliban issued an open letter to the newly elected U.S. President Donald Trump calling on him to withdraw U.S. forces from Afghanistan. After years of negotiations, the Taliban and the Trump administration signed a peace deal in 2020. The U.S. agreed to withdraw troops and release some 5,000 Taliban prisoners, while the Taliban agreed to take steps to prevent any group or individual, including Al Qaeda, from using Afghanistan to threaten the security of the U.S. or its allies. But that did not bring about peace. Violence in Afghanistan grew to its highest level in 2 decades. The Taliban had increased their control of wider swaths of the country and by June of this year contested or controlled an estimated 50 to 70% of Afghan territory outside of urban centers. The report warned that an emboldened Taliban posed a severe and expanding threat to the government of Afghanistan. The report argued that the Taliban leadership had no interest in the peace process and appeared to be focused on strengthening its military position to give it leverage in negotiations or, if necessary, in using armed force. And obviously, we see today that they absolutely used armed force and took control of Afghanistan. Like I said, a long history there. The Taliban's messaging remains uncompromising, and it shows no sign of reducing the level of violence in Afghanistan to facilitate peace negotiations with the government of Afghanistan and other Afghan stakeholders. So, what does the Taliban want? The Taliban have tried to present themselves as being different from the past. They have claimed to be committed to the peace process, an inclusive government, and willing to maintain some rights for women. Taliban spokesman Sohail Shaheen said Wednesday would still be allowed to continue, or I'm sorry, women would still be allowed to continue their education from primary to higher education, a break from the rules during the Taliban's past rule. between 96 and 2001. Shaheen also said diplomats, journalists, and nonprofits could continue operating in the country. Quote, that is our commitment to provide a secure environment and they can carry out their activities for the people of Afghanistan. End quote. Why were the Taliban so strong against the Afghan forces? Now, many observers worry that a return to Taliban rule is a return to the Afghanistan of 2 decades ago when women's rights were severely restricted. Hundreds of thousands were being forced to flee amid reports of serious human rights violations. International humanitarian law and human rights, especially the hard won gains of women and girls, must be preserved. This is according to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Over the past 2 decades, the U.S. has spent more than $1 trillion in Afghanistan. It's trained Afghan soldiers and police and provided them with modern equipment. And as of February, the Afghan forces numbered 308,000 personnel. This is according to a United Nations Security Council report that was released in June, well above the estimated number of armed Taliban fighters, which range from 58,000 to 100,000. Ultimately, though, the Afghan forces proved to be no match for the Taliban. I'd like to show you something else. Give me just a sec here. Let me share this out.
Diane.
Of course,
Nasser.
commercial, but give it just a second here. This is about 1 minute. Here we go.
I have, and veterans are calling me, messaging me, telling me about they're getting contacted by our Afghan allies, but also like we're getting goodbye notes. Afghans believe that they are about to die.
How do you think they're viewing the U.S. right now?
They folks who've worked with us, they know those of us who they worked with, and I think it's a sense of betrayal. I had an Afghan interpreter message me today. Dear sweet sister, the Taliban are in my village. I am about to die. I know who you are. You are for us, but your government is killing us. That's what he messaged to me. Your government is killing us. It's hard to respond to that.
I can't imagine.
It's hard for veterans are seeing this and struggling and wanting to know what they can do. And there's so few, so limited options right now to be able to help anybody. Even to send money, banks are out of money right now. Banks don't have any more money to issue. Passport offices are not functioning.
I know you feel so helpless, Kristen. It's a mess.
A mess, really? Okay, if that's the best word that I guess she could come up with, but let's go back here to what we were watching before because this is doesn't get any realer than this.
See in a video the Taliban members
that you feel is possible,
by the green zone, by kind of more of an official checkpoint, 7 or 8 Taliban people, and we were told that we were not allowed to move to the airport without permission from them, from the government, which we were able to get later on. However, we weren't able to get to the airport because it was shut down and in chaos. My understanding was, from what I saw this morning, was that the Taliban was in control of the streets, that they were not threatening, they didn't threaten us, and they were trying to move things along as smoothly as possible. I can't comment on kind of during the day when it gets busier about what was going on, but I heard that there were people on the streets, shops were open, more people were coming out, people were eating ice creams. So, yeah. There are no police or military here.
No police, no military.
No, from the old government, no.
So the streets are being run by the Taliban, no police, no military. What about the fact that we've seen, interestingly, Nigel, at the airport, no women or children who are part of the groups trying to escape, mainly men? Are the women just too frightened at the moment? And are they, being forced to stay indoors?
That would be hard to say. I would imagine from past experience that there's a lot of fear. Absolutely. I did see children at in the images that I think we've all seen, and women at the airport. But I would imagine that would be a fear that they would have, given the past history. I'd want to stay positive and hopeful that will not be the case. We'll see, right?
Right. What about markets? The overall place, no one really wants to take any chances. Are shops, markets, anything open as you went out this morning?
Yeah, there were shops open. Yeah, and from our Afghan associates, during the day things got busier, shops opened. But even early this morning, shops are open, people were on the street. Yeah, absolutely. It seems they felt that things were returning back to normal, as normal as it could be under the circumstances.
When you say normal under the circumstances, that can be, where does this leave the entire efforts that were on to try and find some kind of a solution that would be free of violence? Is that something that you feel is possible? Groups like yours, the Norwegian Afghanistan Committee, groups that have tried to work out a kind of, both rebuild Afghanistan as well as work out a transition to a more peaceful Afghanistan. Do you see that at all happening?
Yes, I do. I'm hopeful it will happen. And I know that prior to the last couple of weeks, we had been working with the Taliban on some of our programs in the more rural areas, and that they've reached out to us and for us to hopefully continue that. So I'm hopeful. I have to stay hopeful. I have to stay positive, because the alternative is it's pretty grim.
The alternative is pretty grim, but we're looking at it again now from maybe an Indian perspective, in a way that the US have left Afghanistan in a complete mess. After having invested so much of time, people, resources, what happens? You're desperate to get out of the country, and there seems to be this complete chaotic situation building up. So while you're being hopeful, Nigel, is there also a sense that, do you share the sense of betrayal that some people within Afghanistan and outside feel at the moment?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm a US citizen. This has been disgraceful. It's been absolutely disgraceful, and based in no understanding of where the country was. As an interesting thing is this. Yes, the American government has let down the Afghan people incredibly, devastatingly. But they're not even able to evacuate their own people. They're letting down their own people who are not able to leave. So there's deep sense of betrayal on many sides. It's a disgrace.
You know, you're saying it's a disgrace. What, therefore, who do you feel, who do you hold responsible? Is there an individual? Is this about just a successive of governments, particularly from Washington, that have mishandled the situation? Intelligence teams that got it so horribly wrong, didn't think that the Taliban march would be so rapid. Is it something that on the ground, a sense of groundswell of anger possibly that exists against perhaps the US forces? Who do you hold responsible for what's gone wrong in Niger?
I mean, all of the above, really. I mean, you can't point the finger at one particular person or group or time. It's just disasters happen, just not from one thing. They're a collection of events that happen. We have to look at the previous government and the issues of corruption that were never dealt with. We have to look at how Western media have given up reporting, given up investing in bureaus in countries like this for the sake of money. Basically, they don't invest in foreign news, so we never really have a true understanding of what is going on. We can say that foreign policy to some extent is based on news coverage, its influence. Well, when you have no news coverage and you have no investment in places like this, then how are you going to get your intelligence right? How are you going to get your intelligence right when you don't have local speakers? There's lots of blame to go around. I mean, this since 20 years now. 20 years now is when these blunders started.
Nigel, what is the best case scenario for the weeks ahead and the worst case scenario? Give us a sense. What is your best hope? What's your worst nightmare?
Best case scenario is that the Taliban include all Afghan society and respect all Afghan society, Afghan women, Afghan children, and build a government that serves everybody and gives rights to everyone. I'm not saying we need to, ignore their beliefs, but I feel there has to be some development, because we're living in a different world. My best case scenario is that.
So your best case scenario, the best case scenario is this Taliban government builds on some of what was done in the last 20 years, particularly in terms of women's education, infrastructure, the efforts that were put in to try and bring the Afghan society back on track. What's the worst case scenario, Nigel?
We all know the worst case scenario. Everybody's reporting on what happened before. I don't like thinking about it. Maybe that makes me naive. I don't know. The worst case scenario I don't want to think about. So I want to try and be positive, and I want to encourage people to engage and support the Afghan people, organizations, governments, media.
Just to understand, Nigel.
As I know, yes.
So you've had no shortage of food and supplies at the moment?
I don't. No, our organization doesn't. But we're in a different situation, right? I mean, we're in a privileged situation.
But have you heard of people who are struggling to get sort of their daily needs, their supplies at the moment, apart from the fear factor, just getting their lives in some kind of order at the moment?
I haven't. And I think that in the last couple of weeks, when the displaced people were coming into Kabul, there was a lot of need there. And I think those areas that were giving services to those people experienced also up? I haven't, but I can't honestly say I would know right now. It's something I can definitely talk to our staff about.
In conclusion, Nigel, and I know these are tough times for everyone, how are you going to stay on in Kabul, if I may ask, or do you believe that more and more groups like yours will have to abandon Kabul?
I'd like to stay on. I know organizations are committed to staying here. Absolutely 100%. And I hope other organizations make that decision. I think it's going to take some stability of travel, for example. That's going to be a big issue. It's going to take some guarantees from the Taliban government that people are going to be able to work. And then we're going to have to see where that line is of what projects can continue. Yeah.
Are you going to have a good night's sleep today, or are you someone who today is going to sort of pray for a better tomorrow?
Yes, I will, and I am expecting a better night's sleep tonight because things are a little bit more predictable for us. Last night was incredibly frantic. So,
what happened last night? What did you go through last night?
Well, we had associates at the airport who were caught up in the violence at the airport in the evening, and were some of the people who were fleeing across the tarmac. Some of them were able to seek refuge at the U.S. military. Very lucky that they weren't shot. If you can imagine a bunch of people running towards the American military, we all know how that goes, right? So they're very fortunate. A lot of those people were turned back to the civilian side. Flights were canceled. I think all commercial flights were canceled. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of maybe we could get a flight out this morning. So there was preparing of that. There was preparing of potentially private and charter flights for other staff members. And so there wasn't a time when you could, put your head down for 20 minutes because you don't want to miss that message that says maybe go now, or maybe if you get these people to here in this point of time, we can get them out. So I think we know that right now, a lot of that can't happen. So tomorrow's a new day, and let's all be hopeful.
I'm hearing some sound in the background. What is that, Nigel?
That is that's the nightly prayer.
Okay, that's the nightly prayer. Look, Nigel, you've taken time off. I know these are tough times, and for you to come on air and give us a sense of all that's happening in and around you. Stay well, stay safe, and let's hope, as you said, we'll have a better tomorrow. That hopefully it's going to take some time, but hopefully we'll have a
council to oversee the transition of power to the Taliban. The Taliban, however, is not waiting. They have started blacking out women's images on walls. The official broadcast machinery is already under their control. Life in Kabul has gone back 20 years in just one night.
You see in a video the Taliban members and some journalists come here for the making the report of the TV, and all of there the Taliban members. This car and some other government car now captured by the Taliban soldiers.
Bureau Report, India Today.
So what is the road ahead? What does this mean for India and the subcontinent? Will Taliban 2.0 be as deadly as Taliban 1.0? Will the Taliban get acceptability or face global sanctions? Has the myth of the good and the bad Taliban finally been busted? What does this really mean, as I said, for India as well? Just some of the questions that we'll raise. Ashok Sajanhar is the former diplomat, senior diplomat who's looked at these issues carefully. Sadia Khan is leader of the PMLN, Pakistan's leading opposition party. Sadanand Dume, fellow American Enterprise Institute, joining me. Appreciate all of you joining. Let's start.
And guys, I think that there's just going to be a lot of coverage. It's going to be a lot of coverage, and it's I just wanted to play a little bit about a little of that, and just it's crazy. Now, one of the things that I use particularly for my private, and I mean ultimate private conversations, is an application called Telegram, because I have control over these conversations and being able to delete things, self destruct conversations, that sort of a thing. So, if you're interested in communicating as far as with me on that, in regards to that, that's fine. And so, to Mr. Strategic there, if that's something, if you want to have those sorts of conversations, again, I'm very interested in some of these things that you have talked about. Hey, Heaven Sent, how are you, babe? So, I'm always down to understand other people. Always. I'd like to understand why you feel the way that you do, as far as, you know, uh, the Taliban taking control of Afghanistan. But anyway, my username on Telegram, it is a very secure app. And, you know, um, you'll have to find your way, but I am Leaku on Telegram, and I only, I give this out, but again, these are Telegram messages are very secure. They're encrypted end to end. They also have self-destructive methods, so a lot of my messages will self-destruct, that sort of a thing, and that's something that I've always had. So anyway, um, yeah. Shout out to you guys who hung out with me today and, approached and we discussed this very serious topic. Yeah, Queen, it's quite interesting. Um, it's interesting. But I'd rather have a conversation about it than go back and forth in the chat. But anyway, guys, I'm going to end this live. I have a couple of other lives scheduled for today. What do I have scheduled for today? Let's see here. Let me tell you guys. After this live, I have a live scheduled at 4 o'clock, but that's going to be on a backup channel. So you're going to have to be looking in order to find that particular live. I'm going to actually remove it off the main one. I think the only reason I even put it on there was just kind of like put the word out. But I've kind of the construct that I'm not bound to any single channel, honestly. But I've got a few things that I'd like to say. And, I don't like to put this shit on my subscribers, my loyal subs, who get tired of hearing about certain topics every time. They just get tired. So when I want to discuss about certain topics that I know they'll get tired of, I just put it on obscure YouTube channels. And I just title everything appropriately. So if you're meant to hear it, you're meant to hear it, which means that you searched for it in order to find it, right? So you can't come at me talking about, oh, well, I'm all over your channel. My whole channel's about you and blah, or me or blah blah. No, it ain't. If you want to hear this, you're gonna have to search around. And I pretty much have gotten rid of a lot of certain material off my channel, and I've been killing it on the thumbnails. Matter of fact, I'm going through and getting thumbnails on all my videos. If you guys haven't noticed it lately, my channel looks fucking gorgeous. My channel looks absolutely beautiful when you look at it. I've been killing it with the thumbnails, queen. Man, I've been getting really good with it. So anyway, but thanks to everybody who contributed to the discussion today. And I will catch you guys next time, sometime later on today. And let's see what else. Um, Oh, and you guys, just real quick, I have been trying to get in touch with Michelle Johnson, the woman in Baltimore, the grandmother of Nicole, or I'm sorry, of Larry O'Neill and Jocelyn Johnson, the mother of Nicole and Deshelle. And I have reached out to so many Facebook channels or Facebook accounts, but I think that Deshelle, I know Deshelle has deactivated hers because it's gone. But if anyone has any connect or knows Nicole or Deshelle, mostly the grandmother, I'm sorry, Michelle is her name. Um, could you put a word out for me and let her know that LeakU is looking for her, and I would love to speak to her. Anyway, guys, my contact information is always scrolling at the bottom of my videos. Your donations are always welcomed at $LeakU on the Cash App. I'm not monetized. I have been working, as you guys know, on multiple different channels, and I do plan on trying to monetize those channels. But I don't think my main channel will ever be monetized. It's just been too much. So I kind of like focus and do certain content on certain channels. But this one here, this is my baby. This is me and it represents me. And YouTube ain't going to monetize that. So I'm only dependent on your donations. And one thing I'm in need of, to be completely honest with you guys, is a really good microphone. I want a really good mic, and I'm thinking of a stand-up mic, but I also am going to get a headset mic. Headset mics seem to be really good. They have great quality, but I want a really good quality mic. And I put a lot into my channel. Like I pay for StreamYard every month. I pay for the maximum package. I stream to multiple platforms. Like I definitely don't make the amount of money that I spend on my platform. So I'm gonna try to turn that around. And I also have an OnlyFans now, guys, and I have a Patreon. And I've got some things that are going to be happening very soon. And I kind of warned you guys about it not too long ago. But all of my content is not going to be available for free anymore. A lot of you will come back, you'll look at some of my content, but like I'm making some changes. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, that some of my content is going to be on Patreon. And if you're a member of my VIP Discord, you are already a member of the Patreon. So anyway, guys, much love to you guys. Strategic, I hope to hear from you under one of my contacts there. And if you install Telegram, you can find me as LeakU, and our conversations can be very confidential and encrypted, and you can even self-destruct them if you want. But I would like to hear more about this. Um, yeah. So yeah. Don't know. We don't advertise other people's cash apps in my platform unless I say it's cool. Like I'm not a stingy bitch. I promise you, Catherine. I'm pretty cool. But yeah, like if you don't mind, I'd appreciate that, that you don't do that. If you don't do that, okay. Um, but you're cool over here. But there are times that I will come up and say, hey, if you have a channel or a cash app or whatever, feel free to advertise it, but today's not one of those days. So, but I do, do that from time to time. Maybe we'll do something in my next live. So anyway, guys, much love. I appreciate each of you coming through. I'll see y'all soon later on today. And y'all have a really great rest of your week.